The night air bit at Kara's face as she crouched beside Torres at the edge of the landing zone, waiting for the faint sound of helicopter blades that would signal the beginning of their mission. The moonless Pakistani sky stretched above them, a canvas of stars more brilliant than anything she'd seen in Colorado. Somewhere out there across miles of hostile territory, Ahmad Hassan was preparing for his weapons exchange, unaware that his name was on a kill list that had reached the highest levels of American military command. Nervous, Torres asked, his voice barely audible over the soft mountain wind. Kara touched the compass in her pocket, her grandfather's compass feeling its weathered brass beneath her fingertips. Not nervous, she replied, focused. But that wasn't entirely true. Behind the confidence she projected, Master Sergeant Kara Thompson felt the weight of everything that had brought her to this moment. For years of mountain warfare training, countless hours perfecting her marksmanship skills, and a mysterious legacy of a grandfather whose own military service remained partially classified, tonight would test every skill she developed. Behind her calm exterior, Kara's mind raced with conflicting emotions, pride at being chosen for this mission, apprehension about the near-impossible shot awaiting her, and a deeper question that had been growing since Colonel Hayes's briefing. Was she here because of her own merit or because of a genetic quirk inherited from a grandfather she barely knew? The distant thrum of rotor blades interrupted her thoughts. The helicopter materialized from the darkness, a black shape against the starlit sky, setting down just long enough for Kara, Torres, and Rodriguez to board before lifting off again. No lights, no radio chatter, just the precision movement of a well-executed special operations insertion. 15 minutes to drop point. The pilot's voice crackled through their headsets. Weather conditions holding stable. Winds at 10 knots from the southeast. Rodriguez leaned forward. Equipment check one last time. Kara patted each component of her gear, rifle secured in its case, rangefinder, ammunition, communication equipment, survival essentials. The specialized rifle they had received for this mission weighed heavily across her back, its presence a constant reminder of what lay ahead. As the helicopter banked toward their landing zone, Kara's mind drifted back to the Colorado mountains, to her family's ranch, to the first time her grandfather had placed a rifle in her small hands. She'd been 8 years old, standing in the field behind their house, uncertain and eager. "Take your time, Kara." Richard Thompson had said, his voice gentle but firm. "A rush shot is a missed shot. Feel the weapon become part of you. Understand what it wants to do." She'd learned that lesson well over the years that followed, spending countless hours on the range perfecting her technique under his patient guidance. Now, thousands of miles from that Colorado ranch, she was about to put those lessons to the ultimate test. The helicopter touched down just long enough for the 3 team members to disembark before lifting off again, leaving them alone in the hostile Pakistani wilderness. Rodriguez immediately established security while Torres began unpacking their navigation equipment. The terrain around them was rugged and unforgiving, steep ridgelines and deep valleys that would challenge even experienced mountain soldiers. They had 15 kilometers to cover before dawn, moving through territory where enemy patrols could appear. 15 kilometers to the shooting position, Rodriguez whispered, checking his GPS terrain, is steep, mostly rocky with sparse vegetation. For hours of movement time, if we maintain good pace. "And if we encounter opposition?" Torres asked. "We abort," Rodriguez replied firmly. "This mission has a single objective: put Thompson in position for the shot. Anything that compromises that objective is unacceptable risk." They moved through the darkness with the practiced efficiency of soldiers who understood that survival depended on discipline. Rodriguez took point, his experience guiding them through terrain that might have seemed impassable to less trained observers. Torres followed, constantly scanning their surroundings with night vision equipment, alert for any sign of enemy movement. Kara brought up the rear, the specialized rifle secure across her back, her mind already calculating variables for the shot to come. 2 hours into their movement, Rodriguez signaled for a halt. Ahead, the terrain became increasingly steep and treacherous. "Last push," Rodriguez whispered. 800 meters, mostly vertical. Watch your footing and noise discipline. The climb was grueling, especially with their equipment load. Kara felt each additional ounce of the specialized rifle as they ascended the steep terrain. Loose rocks threatened to give way underfoot. Sparse vegetation offered minimal handholds, but years of hiking Colorado's mountains had prepared her well, and she maintained a steady pace despite the challenging conditions. They reached the ridge line with the first pink streaks of dawn painting the eastern horizon. Rodriguez immediately set to work establishing security, creating subtle defensive positions that would protect them from potential attack while maintaining concealment. Torres began unpacking his spotting equipment, preparing for the complex calculations that would support Kara's shot. Kara found herself drawn to the edge of the ridge line, where she could look out over the vast expanse they had crossed during the night. In the growing light, Pakistan revealed itself in stark beauty: jagged mountains, deep valleys, and scattered evidence of human habitation that had persisted through centuries of conflict. She could see the village they had bypassed, smoke now rising from cooking fires as the community awakened. And far in the distance, nearly 3 miles away, she could just make out the compound where Ahmad Hassan was reportedly meeting with his terrorist network. At this range, it appeared as little more than a collection of beige structures against the brown landscape, almost indistinguishable from its surroundings. 3 miles, she whispered to herself, the magnitude of the task ahead suddenly very real. 4,800 meters, Torres joined her at the observation point, nearly double the maximum effective range of your rifle. Even with perfect conditions, the bullet will be in the air for over 6 seconds. Environmental factors will be critical. Kara nodded, understanding the complexity of what lay ahead. Wind speed and direction, temperature variations, humidity, atmospheric pressure, even the rotation of the Earth would affect her shot at this extreme distance. Rodriguez approached, carrying tactical maps. Target compound showing minimal activity currently. Intelligence suggests the meeting will commence at sunrise, approximately 90 minutes from now. We need to establish the shooting position and complete environmental calculations before then. Kara nodded and moved to a flat section of the ridge line that offered both stability for shooting and concealment from observation. She unpacked the specialized rifle with methodical care, assembling the weapon with movements that had become second nature through thousands of repetitions. The custom rifle was a masterpiece of engineering: carbon fiber stock, match grade barrel, precision trigger assembly, and an advanced scope that represented the cutting edge of optical technology. As she worked, Kara thought about Ahmad Hassan, the man she had been sent to kill. 17 bombing attacks across 3 countries, hundreds of civilian casualties, coordination with multiple terrorist networks. The intelligence briefing had painted him as a monster, but somewhere in the back of her mind, her grandfather's voice echoed with lessons about the weight of taking a life. Torres began environmental assessment, Rodriguez instructed, studying the distant compound through his binoculars. Thompson, prepare your position and equipment. We have approximately 90 minutes before the target window opens. Through her scope, Kara began her own assessment of the impossible shot that lay ahead. Torres called from his spotting position. I'm getting initial environmental readings. Wind at our position is 12 knots from the southeast. Temperature 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Barometric pressure 26.8 inches and stable. Kara made mental notes of these values, but she knew they were just the beginning. At nearly 3 miles, the bullet would pass through multiple wind zones, temperature gradients, and pressure systems. Its trajectory would be affected by the Coriolis effect, the rotation of the Earth itself. The curvature of the planet would come into play. Subtle variations in air density between the ridge line and the valley would alter the bullet's path in ways that no existing ballistic calculator could fully predict. Rodriguez, I need higher ground, Kara said suddenly, studying the ridge line. There's a formation about 50 meters up that would give me better angle and elevation. Less interference from thermal currents in the valley. Rodriguez frowned. That position would be more exposed. I know, But at this distance, the improved shooting conditions outweigh the increased vulnerability. Kara met his gaze steadily. This isn't a standard shot, Sergeant. We need every advantage we can get. After a moment's consideration, Rodriguez nodded. Torres, maintain position here and establish communication relay. Thompson and I will move to the higher position. The formation Kara had identified was a jutting rock outcrop that provided a commanding view of the valley below. It offered a stable shooting platform and reduced the effect of heat mirage that would distort her scope picture as the day warmed. The trade-off was exposure. They would be more visible against the skyline, with fewer options for cover if detected. As Kara re-established her shooting position on the higher ground, Torres's voice came through their communication equipment. Target compound showing activity. Multiple personnel moving in the courtyard. Vehicles arriving from the southeast approach road. Kara peered through her scope, adjusting the magnification to bring the distant compound into focus. At nearly 3 miles, even with the advanced optics, individual figures appeared tiny. She could make out movement, but couldn't yet distinguish specific individuals or identify weapons. Torres, talk to me, Kara requested, settling behind a rifle. Range 4,800 meters. Wind southeast at 18 knots, gusting to 25. Temperature stable. Kara's breathing slowed as she entered the focus state that made extreme range shooting possible. Through her scope, she watched figures moving around the target compound, waiting for the specific individual whose elimination was their mission objective. The technical challenges of the shot occupied most of her attention, but she also found herself thinking about the broader implications of what she was preparing to do. Primary target identified, Torres announced. Terrorist commander exiting the main building, moving toward the courtyard. Kara's crosshairs found the target, tracking his movement while calculating the precise moment when conditions would be optimal for engagement. The man in her scope was perhaps 40 years old, moving with the confidence of someone accustomed to command and authority. The target moved into the courtyard, pausing to speak with other men who had gathered for the scheduled meeting. The shot opportunity presented itself suddenly. The target standing alone in clear sight, wind conditions temporarily stable, and optimal lighting for target identification. Kara's finger found the trigger, her world narrowing to the precise calculations required for success. She remembered her grandfather's compass and its inscription, "True aim comes from the heart, not just the eye." At nearly 7 seconds flight time, the bullet would traverse multiple atmospheric zones, affected by Earth's rotation, temperature gradients, and pressure variations. The shot broke clean, the bullet covering 4,800 meters in what felt like eternity. Through her scope, Kara watched the target collapse, confirming successful engagement of the primary objective. Target down, Torres reported. Excellent shot, Thompson. But their celebration was premature. The compound erupted with activity as fighters scattered for cover and began searching for the source of the shot. Kara's muzzle flash had been partially concealed, but experienced fighters could estimate her general location based on bullet trajectory and timing. Multiple personnel moving toward our position, Rodriguez observed through his binoculars. Estimate 20 to 30 fighters beginning systematic search of surrounding ridge lines. Kara began packing her equipment with practiced efficiency, understanding that their shooting position would be compromised within minutes. The successful elimination of their target had triggered a response that would require immediate extraction. Overwatch, this is Eagle 6, the radio crackled with the voice of their extraction helicopter pilot. Weather conditions deteriorating rapidly, visibility dropping below safe limits for mountain flying. Kara felt a chill that had nothing to do with the mountain air. If weather prevented helicopter extraction, her team would be forced to evade on foot through terrain controlled by enemy forces who now knew approximately where they were located. Rodriguez, we need to move now, Kara said, shouldering her pack and checking her equipment one final time. Agreed. Torres, take point. Thompson, you're in the middle. I'll bring up the rear and cover our extraction route. The movement to their alternate extraction point would test every skill they had learned in mountain warfare training. As they began their descent into the valley, Kara touched her grandfather's compass one last time. The impossible shot had been made, the legend born, and now survival depended on everything else they had learned.